Set rotation for Disney Lorcana was confirmed this week by Ravensburger, and while we know some of the reprints we'll be getting in Set 9, Fabled, and beyond, we don't really know the full extent yet, but I have some theories on what cards might be spared from rotation. So today, we're going to talk about 30 cards I think will probably survive rotation and get reprints in either Set 9 or at least the near future. But before we get into it, I want to remind everyone to please like this video and subscribe to the Sorcerer's Hat for more Disney Lorcana content. I post brand new videos every single Friday. I've also recently become partnered on YouTube, so please consider joining the channel to support me. I'm currently coming up with perks and prizes or exclusive content that I could provide, so please let me know what you'd like to see. And as we creep closer to 1,000 subscribers, I am planning a giveaway for when we reach that awesome milestone. But anyway, let's not waste any more time and let's get into some cards. So I went through every card in sets 1 through 4 just to see what I think could realistically get a reprint in set 9. I didn't pick an equal amount of cards for every ink color, but I think I touched on all the big ones that I believe have a very realistic chance of being reprinted post-rotation. So first things first, let's start with Amber. First up we have Ariel, Spectacular Singer. This card has basically been a meta staple since it was printed all the way back in set 1. And it feels so core to Amber's color identity of singing that I feel like the ink color will probably suffer greatly if there isn't either a reprint of this card or some sort of replacement for it. Therefore, I think there's actually a really good chance that we see a reprint of this sooner rather than later. Next is Rapunzel, Gifted with Healing. Like Ariel, this card has been meta since its printing in set 1, and it's always fetched a very high price because of that, and because first chapter boosters have been just really hard to get a hold of. Most of the time, this card hovers around $50 a pop because she's just so necessary for the color to thrive. I don't think Rapunzel is busted or anything, and oftentimes her ability doesn't even reach its maximum potential, so it's not the most overpowered card in existence. And reprints of this card have honestly been needed for a long time, so I think it's highly likely that it will get some kind of reprint in set 9. And that's actually all I have for Amber, so we're gonna move on to Amethyst now. First up is Mickey Mouse, Wayward Sorcerer. I know this is a weird pick, but this card is kind of iconic in Lorcana's history. Along with that, it's one of the cards core to the Broom strategy, which is basically being rotated out completely without reprints. So I think there's a pretty good chance that this and some of the other Broom cards see reprints just so the archetype can remain viable if that's something Ravensburger wants to push. Even though it's never really been a meta contender, it has its fans. Next we've got Elsa, Spirit of Winter. This card is also very iconic in the game's history and has the honor of being the most expensive enchanted card in the game. It's slow, but it's a really great card in certain metas, and it's seen some play off and on during Lorcana's life. I could definitely see it making a comeback. And finally, for Amethyst, it's Friends on the Other Side. This song has been an Amethyst staple in every deck since the game began, and it's because it's truly great. It's also a really great Disney song on top of that, and it just feels so core to the identity of Amethyst's design ethos that I can't really see a world where this card isn't printed just all the time. It's that good. Okay, now it's time to talk about Emerald, and first up for Emerald is one of my favorites. It's Morph. This might seem like a strange pick, but I think Morph is one of the most flavorful cards in the entire game, and it fits in with Emerald's focus on Floodborn cards. Morph just seems like a card that should be kept around to make sure that the shifting strategy in Emerald decks is still viable, and you can have some more creative shift lines if you want when you're deck building. Also, just look at his face. What a nice young man. Next, we've got Mother Knows Best, a really good song and a pretty good card that also fits in with Emerald's identity of bouncing cards back to their players' hands. This seems like a pretty easy target for a reprint. Next, we've got We Don't Talk About Bruno. It's Emerald's version of removal, and this can potentially also discard the card that you bounce. So in that way, it's also really good. And it's a really iconic song, so I assume this will probably get reprinted, just to make sure that the color combo still has some removal. Next up, I believe that Ursula Deceiver will be reprinted because it's just a really, really good card that kind of keeps very song-heavy decks in check. I don't think discard will be a very prominent archetype in the near future, but that doesn't mean that random discard effects won't exist. And I think Ursula is just a really good card that doesn't feel overpowered in any way, but is still really strong. Finally, for Emerald, we've got Under the Sea. I like this card a lot, and come on, it's one of the most famous Disney songs of all time. Are you telling me they're never going to reprint this? Especially when Amber is getting more cards to decrease opposing character strength. This card is probably getting reprinted at some point, if not in set 9. All right, it's time to talk about Ruby. First up is one of my favorites, Maui Hero to All. Almost every Ruby deck I've ever played has at least 4 copies of this card in it because it's just so good. It answers so many things in the game and almost feels necessary for Ruby to keep board presence. The game needs to have surprise cards that come down and punish things like exerted characters, and Maui just feels really well balanced. Yes, he almost always takes out 2 of your opponent's cards on his way out, but come on, he's awesome. He's probably gonna get reprinted. Next is Lady Tmaine, Imperious Queen. She's a really good card that saw a lot of competitive play over the first 2 years of Lorcana. She feels like she fits in with Ruby's identity really well and doesn't feel incredibly overpowered for what she does, and also requires a little bit of skill to get her removal to work the way that you want it to. I think there's a world where she's reprinted into the current meta for sure. Next is Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor. Now, I know this card isn't amazing or anything, but it's probably the most iconic card in the game's history. It's practically the poster child of the game, the Pikachu of the game, if you will. And for that reason alone, I think you get some kind of new version of this card, and honestly, maybe even an enchanted version at some point. I could really see that happening. Next is Cisu Empowered Sibling. This is just a really good card and essential for Ruby decks shutting down aggro and lower strength characters. The issue we have going into rotation is that all of the strength-based removal cards Ruby has are basically getting removed from the game, and it sort of feels essential for the color, so I could see this getting reprinted not too long after rotation. To piggyback off of Cisu, I think Brawl will likely be reprinted as well. It's just a really efficient card in certain metagames and keeps some of the more high-powered evasive cards in check. I think this is a pretty easy card to reprint at this point. Next up is Dragonfire. This just feels like a super basic removal action that is almost semi-iconic in the game. It's got a cool challenge promo version and everything, so yeah, I could see this being reprinted pretty much immediately. It's also just a nice baseline removal action for the game. Just point at a character and make it go away. And the final Ruby card that I think will get reprinted is Be Prepared. I know some people hate this card with a passion, but listen. I think cards like Be Prepared need to exist for card games to be healthy. Otherwise, every deck will just try to go wider than the next one, and believe me, you don't want to live in a card game where that is the predominant strategy. Be Prepared is also an iconic song. It's a great card. I think there's no way that this does not get reprinted. Next, we've got Sapphire cards, and first up is Hades, Infernal Schemer. This is basically Sapphire's version of Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, which we do know is getting reprinted. I love Hades. It's such a great card for getting rid of recurring characters like Lilo, and also eliminating really big threats on the other side of the board. Hades has been one of my favorite cards since the game began, and I'd love to see him make a return, or I guess stick around, but you get the idea. Next is Tomatoa So Shiny. I know some people hate this card, but I think most people don't like it because it pairs so well with Lucky Dime, which personally I don't think will get reprinted anytime soon. And without Dime, the potential for Tomatoa to just win the game suddenly goes away, and instead makes it a slow, must-answer card, which is probably better for the game anyway. Next is Develop Your Brain. I love this card. It's a really good card, a really solid utility action for Sapphire that fits in with its identity of manipulating the deck, so I don't really see it going anywhere, and I'm fairly certain it will see a reprint. Next is How Far I'll Go. It's the most famous song from Moana. People love Moana. It's an iconic song, and it's an amazing card. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether it will actually get reprinted in set 9, but I'm sure that it will at some point. It's just a really solid card. And finally for Sapphire, we've got Let It Go. I mean, do I really need to say more? It's Let It Go. It's one of the most famous Disney songs of all time, and it's a good card. So it's highly likely it'll get reprinted, and soon. All right, and finally on to Steel. And first off, I'm just gonna lump all of the removal songs into one discussion, and that would be Let the Storm Rage On, Strength of a Raging Fire, and Then Along Came Zeus. These are really iconic songs, or in the case of Storm, lyrics of a song, and they just almost feel kinda necessary for Steel. Now, I could see a world where we get different removal songs in this format with different effects and values, but I do think at some point we're going to get these songs again. Next is Beast, Tragic Hero. Beast is a really good card and provides really solid draw support for Steel and a little bit of utility with his ability as well. The only way I could see this becoming overpowered is if there aren't any removal cards reprinted or printed for the first time that can banish this. Otherwise, I think this is a good card that people would love to see played more in the future meta. Next is Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. It's a staple Steel card, and whether you love or hate it, it's a fan favorite legendary for a lot of reasons. Maybe it won't get reprinted in set 9, but I bet that it gets reprinted at some point just because Steel players love this card and for good reason. But as a predominantly Ruby Sapphire card, I hate seeing this guy on the other side of the table. Next might be a weird choice, but Mickey Mouse Playful Sorcerer. I feel like this is another card that makes the Brooms archetype work, and if they want that to survive rotation or bring it back in the future, this card probably needs to come with it. Also, it's an incredibly iconic Mickey Mouse, so I bet this comes back at some point. Next is Grab Your Sword, and primarily for the same reasons Be Prepared will probably be reprinted. We need to have removal actions that keep things like aggro in check, and this is one of those tools. It hasn't seen a ton of play in recent years, but in a new format, especially with a deck like Chernadogs running around, it's probably time for Grab Your Swords to make a comeback just to keep decks like that in check. And finally, A Whole New World. While I love the song and despise this card with every fiber of my being, I know that in my heart of hearts, it's probably going to get reprinted. For one, we're getting that Worlds promo somehow. They haven't announced yet how that's happening. And two, it's just another really iconic song that's really powerful and makes some deck archetypes actually function. Will it be necessary post-rotation? It's really hard to say, but I can't see a world where A Whole New World isn't reprinted in set 9. And those are all of the cards that I think will probably get reprinted very, very soon, post-rotation. If I missed any that you think are going to get reprinted very soon, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe to the Sorcerer's Hat for more Lorcana videos. I post a new one every single Friday. I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye. Love you.